would you go to raise money without having an idea of the valuation of your business? Because I hope you understand that if you're asking an investor for $100,000 and the investor says, I want 50% of your business, the investor has valued your company at $200,000. Half of 200,000 is 100,000. So if I give you 100,000, you must give me 50%. Or no, you have to give me 50% of your company. So the problem is that entrepreneurs go into these meetings unprepared. They go to meet investors unprepared. So all they know is they want to raise money. They want to raise $100,000. But at what valuation? Do you have a credible basis for your valuation so that when the investor tells you how much equity they want, you can counter them? So let me give you an example. You have a business, you've been running it for the past 5 years. Your average revenues in the last 5 years is about, let's say $50,000 every year. $50,000 every year is your average revenue. There are different ways to value a company. But for a company, for a post-revenue business, that's a business that's already making revenues, one of the ways to value that kind of business is a revenue multiplier. So I take your average revenue, or I take your revenue from your most recent year, and I multiply it by a particular multiple. I can get that multiple by comparing your business to maybe another business on the stock market or from a previous transaction in the same industry. So let's imagine that your multiplier is a multiplier of 7 times. So in some industries, how you value the business is you take the revenue and multiply it by a number. It could be 5, it could be 7. For sake of this conversation, let's multiply it by 7. So your average revenue is $50,000 per year. Multiply with a multiplier of 7. That gives us $350,000. That's your valuation. That's what you're going into the business, into the meeting with the investor with. So in your mind, your business is valued at $350,000. Remember, when you are dealing with investors, investors want your value to be as low as possible. You, the owner of the business, you want the valuation to be as high as possible. The higher it is, the better the deal for you. The lower it is, the worse the deal is for you, but better for the investor. So that's the game. That's the conversation that happens between you and the investor. The investor is trying to push down your valuation. You are trying to push up your valuation. Now, the investor will not just push down your valuation for no reason. The investor will come up with things like, but that other company, your competitor, was valued at this amount. Why would you value yourself at this amount? If you are told something like that, how do you respond? You need to have an answer for that. Or the investor might say, your revenues are poor. You're making just $10,000. You're making just $10,000 in sales a year. How did you get $350,000? That is overvalued. If you hear something like that, how do you respond? So you need to be prepared with your counter. So it doesn't make sense to walk into an equity conversation without having a valuation in your head. Because in exchange for the money the investor will give you, the investor will want a stake in your company. It might be 20%, it might be 30%, it might be 40, 50, 60. The problem is the moment the investor crosses 50%, that thing around control is a problem. So let me take some time to talk a bit about this. As the owner of the business, there are 2 things you enjoy. You enjoy ownership. If you own 100% of your company, what it means is that every profit you make, you keep 100% of it. That's ownership based on what you own. The second is control. How much influence do you have over the decisions of your company? Many of you in this business clinic right now, on this live, you have full control over your business. You decide who you fire, you decide who you hire, you decide who you fire, you decide what strategic relationships to get into, you decide which products to focus on, you decide how to optimize your profits, you decide how to structure your business. You have control. And many of you right now are taking that control for granted. Why? You own 100% of your business and you control 100% of your business. The moment an investor comes in, you see that line called 50%, that becomes an issue. Because if the investor's ownership crosses 50%, all of a sudden there are certain things you cannot do on your own. You cannot do things unilaterally. For example, you cannot fire your sales director or your sales manager just like that. You can't just sell an asset, an equipment in the business just like that. All those things will be in the contract. You will need the investor's consent to do those things. And for some people, especially if you run your business for a long time on your own, and you've enjoyed control, you're going to feel strange when you have to report to, you're not really reporting to somebody, but it's like you need somebody's consent before you can do something in your own business. Can you take something like that? If you cannot take it, then don't touch equity. If you cannot afford to lose control of your company, don't take equity. But if you're not going to take equity, I hope you understand that you are now limited to loans. You either have to take a loan or make your peace with sharing control of your company with somebody. So these are the trade-offs that you have to make. It's either you go for a loan, you go for equity, or you can have a hybrid, which is the last one I want to talk about before I move on to the next topic.